Hey everybody, welcome back to the Back to Brilliance podcast. We're your hosts, Henry and Joseph. Thank you guys for tuning in. We ask that you would subscribe wherever you're listening, leave a comment, rating, and review. It helps great people like you find our podcast. So today we got a good treat for you guys. We're going to be talking about some good stuff, the power of self-talk and, routine and consistency. So with that, we got our co-host Joseph. Say what's up, Joseph, and let us know what's on your mind, brother.
Yeah, hey, what's going on?
Not much. We have this topic today, bro. We're going to be talking about the power of self-talk and routines and consistency to keep us going in those times when, the struggle gets hard. So what do we got, bro? What's on your mind today?
So really, I just want to start off with waking up with drive, or like starting your day off right, because it makes your days a lot easier if you're not waking up with resistance, or if you're not waking up telling yourself like, oh, I have to do this today, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, been there many times. A lot of times you find excuses. We were talking about last episode how what happens is we doom scroll, we do things, to avoid, So with that, there's some key things that we want to bring out to you guys today. And, what are some good tips that you would recommend, bro, for that?
Well, first off, it starts before your morning, really, right? Because you can prepare for the morning at night. So something as simple as just knowing what you want to do whenever you wake up, or having a task list, or even if you don't want to make a list per se, just telling yourself like, okay, I want to do this tomorrow, or I got to get this done tomorrow. That way, whenever you wake up, your mind is already ready to be focused in on what you need to do.
Right. No, I agree. It is always good to prepare the night before. Just like anything, you're going to build a house, you have to prepare everything, right? You got to get the plans. You got to count the cost, so to speak, of everything, so that way you're ready, to go in the morning, because if not, if you don't put a plan together or just something strategic, tomorrow will come and you'll just do wherever the day takes you, so to speak. So
yeah. Someone said, it was a MMA coach. He was saying, whenever you don't do that, your week does not have a shape. But whenever you try to plan out your week, or even just plan out your next day, then it gives it some shape. It gives it some focused constraints, right? And that would give it shape. Right.
Well, there's a saying, it says, if you fail to plan, that's a plan to fail. So, that's the thing. We always have to have a plan, whether it's, however simple it is, but with that plan, put that together at night, just a little 1, 2, 3 steps that you're going to do. And waking up in the morning, the first thing you don't want to do, which we always do, is we reach for our phone and we go start checking emails and messages, and we get distracted. So what are some tips, bro, that we can say that would, help us in the morning, like routines maybe, or something like that,
Yeah, definitely. So honestly, what I would recommend is putting on either a motivational speech or a song that you like that puts you in a good mood, but just put something on that puts you in a good mood. If it's a dog video, even just something that gets you right and that gets your mind in a positive frame of mind. Something that I personally do, that I've been doing for like a couple months now, is I'll wake up and I'll tell myself I love myself, or like I love you. I'll just say I love you, and then I'll say I love you too. It's very strange, but just something positive, right? Like just Absolutely. Letting yourself know that there's good in the world, like first thing in the morning.
Yeah, no. And one of the other things that I used to do it, I haven't done it in a while, but now that we're talking about it, I think I should put it back on. I used to make my ringtone in the morning for my alarm a motivational song, like an inspirational, upbeat song that just kind of like gets me going in the morning. So when I wake up, I'm already like, "Ooh, I'm feeling good," you know? So
Yeah.
sometimes even something just as simple as that can, change the perspective. Nothing else really changes except your perspective, the way you wake up in the morning, So just setting up your mind in the morning, once you wake up, it's you have to make that determination. But like you said, I think that comes before the morning time, which is at night, So
Yeah, definitely. And even if you don't want to listen to a motivational speech or whatever the case may be, again, just something that you like or something that puts you in a good mood. Not looking at social media, not looking at quote unquote junk food, but something that puts you in a frame of mind where you're like, "Ooh, I like that. That's good." It could even be ambient noise or whatever the case may be, but just something that puts you in a good state of mind first.
right, yeah, and it starts in the morning, guys, before you even step foot out the door, because that world is crazy out there, so you got to prepare your mind first thing in the morning, whatever it is, however, we're just suggesting simplified tools, but you guys know what works best for you. I think, would it be fair to say, like, having a good morning routine?
Yes, definitely. That is something that I really have been working towards or working on this whole year. I'm not, traditionally speaking, I'm not a person of habit. And so that's something that I've been trying to adapt. And every night I go to bed listening to audiobooks and or like self-help lectures. And so I'll wake up and I'll just lay there and listen to the lecture that is on, because I have a whole playlist. So I'll just let it play out for another couple minutes. But then what I do is I will look at my goal card, because that's something that I've done within the past week. And so that right there is like my morning routine, even if it's a small one, but just something to ground yourself every day.
Yeah, no, definitely, bro. And that's me too, so at night, I prepare the things that I have. For me, what I use is, I'm a Google guy, so, don't shoot me, but, I use Google Notes, it's called Keep. Google Keep, and I put notes, and reminders for in the morning, because if I hold that stuff in my brain at night, then I'm not really sleeping well, because I'm thinking about everything that I got to do tomorrow. So when I jot it down, it's off my mind. I can go to sleep. When I wake up, the alert lets me know, hey, don't forget this, And my morning routine, I get up, I read, I read my Bible, devotionals, self-help, motivation, get myself fired up. So I get in the right frame of mind. Then I do a little, 15-minute exercise, jumping jacks and all that stuff. But it helps me to get through the day. You know what I'm saying? And then I can see the difference when you don't do those things, when I skip. I suffer for it, throughout the day. And it's like, oh, man. And then at the end of the night, I realized I was off because I didn't follow my morning routine. So,
Yeah, definitely. And like you just said, like exercise, it's very important, especially whenever you, I've heard science about this, but I'm not going to say that it's 100% true, but look into it. But whenever you exercise before you break your fast or before you eat in the morning, it does something different as opposed to if you were to exercise like in the middle of the day or even at the evening time after you've had all the food in your system. But I really like that you wake up and read the Bible, because I feel like that's a very underrated thing, even for people who aren't religious. I think just waking up and reading something positive and good for your soul in a way,
right.
is very, very underrated.
Yeah, well, I look at it, bro, more like balance. You know what I mean? You can't have all one thing one way or all one thing the other way. So this is like the happy middle. And again, it took time to do that. Like it's not like oh yeah, I'm just gonna do it because I'm a Christian and that's what I'm supposed to do. Now, there's a lot of people that don't read. You know what I'm saying? So it's important that like you make these efforts, even in whatever you're reading, you know, motivational. There's a lot of motivational, inspirational, and that's what I read. It's just devotion, so it's not like a 10-page thing. Sometimes it's a 1-page thing, but it's very impactful with the wisdom and the knowledge that the author wrote in there, and you know, it's good for that day to get you started. You know, so it's not just like you said, the junk food theory. You know, we can't keep feeding junk food. So yeah. So with that, guys, just keep it going. You know, figure out what your morning routine is and get it going. You know.
Definitely. Which brings me on to our next topic, which is positive self-talk. That's something that I see more and more every day is very, very underappreciated and undervalued. It's something that I've worked on in the past year, and I've seen a lot of improvement. Well, I would say since 2023 specifically, but I've seen a lot of improvement in myself and just in the way I see things, right? Like, if you're constantly describing yourself and the world around you so negatively, you're going to attract that negativity, and especially within yourself. If you're constantly telling yourself like, "Oh, I'm so dumb, I'm so stupid, why?" Stop. You know,
Right.
like, you have to give yourself a lot of love. I'm not saying that you need to be delusional, but just be positive.
Right. You know, and you're right in saying that, bro. You know, that comes back to the universal law that we talked about of reaping and sowing, right? You know, if you're planting seeds of negativity, guess what you're going to produce? A crop of negativity, you know, and that's what's going to be you're feeding on, you know. So if you don't like the results you're getting, all you have to do is change the seeds that you're planting. You know, and that again ties into what we were just talking about, the morning routines, you know, the motivational speeches that you're hearing, reading, journaling, exercise, you know. So, yeah, positive self-talk is very important. You know, one thing that I learned is we can't trick the brain, guys, no matter what, you know what I mean? Like, you can say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. But until your brain starts to see the actions take place in your life, you know, the results will always continue to be the same. So waking up in the morning is a great thing, and telling yourself, you know, I can do it, you know, is a positive affirmation in the right way to help you to accomplish, you know, and to get out of that negative self-talk, you know.
Yeah, just telling yourself you can do it. And it's something as simple as that, or it could be anything, right? Just give yourself positive affirmations, especially in the morning. I mean, really throughout the day, anytime that you can, as much as you can, really. That's something that I've been learning this week, is just constantly like influencing your mind to be positive. But even, again, just something as simple as I could do it whenever you're about to go to work, before you get in your car in the morning, you know, just be like, oh, I could do it, you know, just telling yourself something as simple as that will put you in a different frame of mind.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's the thing, you know, not talking, you know, negative about yourself. You know, I think a lot of times we do that, you know, like I've done that many times where I've talked myself out of things, or talked myself like, oh, it's going to be hard. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And then in spite of that, I'm like, well, I still got to go get it done. Right. So I get out there, I get it done. And when I get done, then I'm all happy. I'm thinking to myself, man, I think I painted a bigger boogeyman than what really existed, you know? So when I get out there and I'm like, I get it done, I come back, I'm feeling positive, I'm happy, you know, and that inspires me. So it's important that, yeah, I agree with you that, you know, tell yourself you can do it, you know. I think that mentality is a great thing. I can do it. I got to get it done, you know. So
Yeah, definitely. Just, again, not talking negatively about yourself. That's such a big thing. Like, don't talk bad about yourself to others. Don't say, whenever you're talking to people, don't describe yourself negatively. That's something that I've really been working on since 2024, really, where I don't allow myself, and, you know, I'm not perfect about it. It's a work in progress, but I really try to focus on being intentional with how I describe myself to others, because that feeds into how I feel about myself. And you have to be a cheerleader for yourself. You have to be your number one fan, because no one else will be your number one fan besides you.
Very true, bro. Yeah, and that's the thing, it's just finding the tools, right? That's what it's all about. There's no one way to do it. If there was, we'd be millionaires, because I would tell you the one way. I would have the solution, but there's no one way. The key thing is just finding the way to positively influence your life.
Yes, and like we were saying, if you stop describing yourself and your world negatively, it will make your day happier. It will make your day lighter. If you're not constantly, like Henry just said, making a boogeyman out of life, then you're going to be in a much better spot or situation, because we all do it where we will overthink things. We'll talk things up and make them bigger than what they need to be. But we could even stop it right there before we even have to make a boogeyman. We make it into a teddy bear instead of a boogeyman.
Right.
And so now that challenge is something that you're looking forward to, right? If you were to be like, oh, I want to do this, I'm ready to do it, as opposed to, oh, I don't want to do it, I'm not ready to do it. Well, now that boogeyman is now an opportunity versus a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Very true, bro. And again, guys, it's just as simple is telling yourself, that I get to do it. You know what I mean? So when you change the frame of mind that, hey, I get to do this, and whatever it is, I don't want to say anything negative, but like, you get to walk around. There's people that don't have that legs, so it's like there's always the good that you can see in everything. So when you're feeling like, oh man, things are coming down, it's like, no, be grateful. That's the one of the keys to success in overcoming the negativity is gratitude. Whenever you're feeling negative, you're feeling something, just start exercising gratitude, thankful for the simple things that you have, thankful for clean water. Thank you for warm water. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You could just take a shower, thank you for my vehicle, even if it's a jalopy and it only rolls downhill, you know what I'm saying? Like, but you have wheels, so just when you start exercising gratitude, bro, you start to see that like your demeanor changes, your mindset changes, things change, and you starts to feel a little bit better. And then that gets you going, so sometimes you could just be stuck in a funk. I call it a funk, whatever that funk is, so we all hit that funk, guys. That's reality. The thing is don't start getting mail in that funky town. You know what I'm saying? Like, get in, get out. You know what I'm saying? So just keep it moving, keep pushing.
Yeah, definitely. And that really takes me into our next topic, which is being persistent and consistent. And that's something, those are two very powerful words that I'm trying to embody right now, that I am actively working on every day. And what I mean by that is being persistent enough to keep showing up, and then being consistent within that effort, right? So you show up with a drive, and then you show up every day with drive.
Right. No, I agree, bro. And persistence is the key. You got to keep, asking, seeking, knocking till you find it, and that's where consistency comes in, so it's not going to come overnight, guys. That's what we come to realize, right? There's no overnight success. Everything takes time, and you got to put in that time, so staying persistent, staying consistent, and finding the tools that serve you, so whether it be a group, a community, like we talked the last time, that's going to help you stay consistent, because of accountability, and that's going to help you along with your persistence, because, birds of a feather flock together. So it helps you to, keep going. When you find others, that's how me and Joseph came about, so I call it iron sharpens iron, so we've both been consistent on this, and we're persistent to keep putting out episodes. So, we thank you guys for tuning in, and this is just a testament to, us putting in the effort,
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I agree completely. And like you just said, being in a group is so important because if you have let's say you're in a group of friends and three of them are constantly saying how negative things are, how bad life is, you're gonna adopt that mindset too. But if you're likewise or vice versa, if you're in a group of people where they're constantly celebrating their wins, thinking about their next win, and just being in a positive mind frame, you're gonna adapt to that too. You're gonna become that person as well. And so that saying of your value will be the average of your five friends or whatever it says.
Right.
Yeah. That is very true because again, iron sharpens iron, and if you're with like-minded people like that, you're going to go very high.
Yes, sir. I agree, bro. And that's the thing. I'll even make this comparison. Like, you have to ask yourself, when you see an eagle, eagles soar high. You know what I mean? And turkeys just run around. So who do you want to hang around with? You want to soar with eagles or, hang out with turkeys, So the thing is that you are the average of the five people you hang around with, So it's like you want to get around people that are even if they're not doing anything big, but they're driving, they're moving, they're pushing towards something, There's enough negative Nancys out there. No offense if your name is Nancy, but that's just a term. But, there's enough negativity out there that you just want to have that little bit of positive in your life. So, staying consistent, staying persistent, and getting around people like that, will help you along the journey of your life, So,
yeah, definitely. And really just being consistent with what you want, right? Like, don't let that go. Don't let what you want to go. That's something that I have had struggles with throughout my life, but as of the last year, especially, just showing up every day, even if it's not every day, but every week, minimum, every week, 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever it is, but just move that needle forward. Keep going brick by brick.
Yeah, I agree. And here's a question, it's something to give you to think about. Do you really know what you want? Because being consistent, do you really know what you want? And I think a lot of times we just kind of settle for this is just what it is. We don't really paint the picture of what we really want, and I've been guilty of that many times, and I've tried many different things, guys, many that I try them, I let them go. So that's why what I started doing is building it out for a 90-day process, So if it doesn't work, if it's serving me, put more energy in. If it's not, get rid of it, because again, that time is our greatest commodity. So we're limited, right? We're only here so many years. So let's do what we want, and create that life that we want. So if you don't know what you want, write it down. That's it. Where do you see yourself? What do you want? And then you're going to start to see, okay, once you know what you're going for, again, that plan, right? Putting it together, then you're going to keep moving, So.
Yeah. And that leads into being persistent. Like you being consistent is one thing, but if you don't have the drive or passion behind it, there's not going to be any force or fire behind it. It's just going to be a flame that just burns like a candle.
Right.
It's not going to be a campfire. And so to be persistent, that's what will get you what you want. Because if you look at people who are successful, they're not half-assing it. There's a sense of urgency behind it, right? They want it. They want it now. Not, I'll get it in like 5 years from now.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's how it works. I've seen both ends of the spectrum. There's the dreamers that talk about everything that they want to do. There's the doers, that just start doing things and getting things done, and then the fulfillment comes in the doing. So it's never so much over planning and thinking, don't spend too much time there, just be persistent, and what you want, be consistent with it, and it'll start to work and flow, so.
Yeah, definitely. Which really is to say, just continuously working on yourself or working towards your goals, right? And what I mean by that is you can show up to work every day, but if you're not putting in the work to be a better person every day, you're going to be the same person every day. And so you have to, even if you are, before we started recording, Henry told me this as well. But you can, there's a lot of good information out there. You can take in as much information as you want, but that won't change you unless you put in the work and effort to change it, to become a better person.
True. Yeah. Information without application is useless, guys. That's the key, so you do have to put in the application to what you're learning, the tips, the tricks, everything, whatever it is, you have to apply it, for it, in order for it to work, in order to see things happen and change in your life, so.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, if you don't put in the effort to change, there won't be any change.
True. And that goes back to one of these sayings that I've heard before, it's like a lot of people say, I got 25 years of experience, but in reality, sometimes they don't. They only have 1 year of experience and they've been doing the same thing for the last 25 years, so they classify that in their mind as 25 years of experience. But in life, it doesn't work that way. We always have to keep putting in the work, even in, like we talked about seasons, so we'll use the farmer illustration, it's like, in season, they reap, the benefits of their labor that they put in on the back end. So that back end was, like tilling the dirt, planting the seeds, watering it, making sure the weeds are staying out, and that's metaphoric for life because that's how things happen, right? We have bills and problems and all these things that happen. So it's important that we take care of those things by doing these tips and tricks that, we're sharing with you guys here on this podcast. So
Definitely.
Yeah. So again, guys, my thoughts on this, it's just, you guys, again, the power of self-talk, routine, consistency, that's the key, waking up with the drive to do something, keeping that positive self-talk alive for yourself, staying persistent and consistent with it, your morning routines, whatever it is that serves you, so, yeah. And with that, Joseph, you got any final thoughts to offer?
Yeah, really, I just want to say this. Be the person that you want to be tomorrow, today. So basically, all of the things that you want to be them now. That way you will be them tomorrow. And not only that, but just know that the more that you tell yourself positive things, the more it will rub off on you and other people.
Well said, bro. All right, guys. Well, with that, we thank you for tuning in to Back to Brilliance podcast. We thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a message or a comment. It helps great people like you guys find our podcast. And with that, we're out, guys. Have a blessed day.
Bye-bye.